Now, when this music is playing, I'm going to shave and act like I'm tying my shoes. Here comes Michael C. Hall. I'll tell you the truth. The opening of that show, where you're just doing normal things, is about as frightening as television's ever been before.
Yeah, it really sets the tone. I don't know how they came up with that, but it's a really wonderful way to just expose the underbelly of Dexter's morning routine, the inherent violence of that. And
yeah.
It sort of lets you know that there's an underbelly to the show, you know?
Yeah, that is really true. That the fact that even his routines, the fact that he's obsessive and anal and everything's perfect, comes across really frightening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have to play that character, I guess, in a way of something has to be happening underneath, right?
Right, right. I mean, you know, in terms of what he initially claims about himself, it's all a simulation. He fakes all human interaction. He's without the capacity for authentic human emotion. But I think we're meant to be skeptical.
Right.
And, you know, when we learn about Dexter's foster father and the fact that he's taken this unique responsibility for his darker impulses and is only killing people who arguably deserve it and may well be preventing as many murders as he's committing, you know, we're sort of given permission to identify with him, root for him, and also are maybe led to believe that there might be a little more there than Dexter claims is there or
right.
is aware of there is there in terms of an emotional life.
Well, see, that was the interesting thing. When I first started watching the show, I'm like, okay, he's a vampire. Great premise. He's a real-life vampire. But now, where the show has gone, you're like, well, maybe he's an abuse victim who it's not so much that he doesn't have emotions, it's just that got cut off, his emotions.
Yeah, I think his ability to, I mean, like in the second season, you know, he just killed his brother. I mean, things wrap up pretty nicely plot-wise, but he's got like a gaping emotional wound.
Yeah.
And he's not able to sort of consciously recognize that that's why he had trouble stabbing that first victim, or that's why he's susceptible to this new relationship with this woman, but she's sort of in her way satisfying the newly developed need to be seen, you know, and to reveal himself and all that stuff. So,
well, I think that's the other really brilliant thing, that the two women in his life kind of are different shadows of him. One who's an abuse victim and trying to move on and trying to be normal, and the other one who's just a crazy girl going to bring it out, which is perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And again, anyone who's ever been through the addiction stuff has seen that. Like, you meet the girl who is almost part of your illness. Like, you're like, who's going, let's bring it on, man. Let's see how weird we can get. And that's exciting stuff.
Right. But dangerous.
Yeah.
Slippery slope. And he doesn't, you know, I mean, Dexter, you know, for all of his exceptional qualities, you know, there are things that he does that reveal that he's just a guy.
Yeah. Well, there's so many great things about this show. Number one, Miami, because Miami is different than everywhere else in the country. It really is. I lived down there for a while. You guys have done a great job of capturing all the different ethnic groups living together. And it's almost a Wild West feeling sometimes at night in Miami.
Yeah, there's something about the place. I mean, it's not totally lawless, but when we spent time there shooting the pilot and then on location, it's like if anybody could get away with this, I think it would be there.
Yeah, well, people come in and out of Miami all the time. When I was a kid, if you ran away, you went to Lauderdale or Miami. Serial killers always show up in Florida because, you know, like everyone else, if you get the choice to have a warm winter, why wouldn't you? So, and then you also get people from all parts of the world going there.
Right.
So it's really an international city. And the fact of whatever it is in the humidity at night, also gets you a little crazy. People party hardier in Miami than anywhere else.
The air has a distinct weight to it. You know?
So all this stuff has come together. There's great writing on this show. What you've done with the character is just great. And here's what I like about being a fan of the show, is that every time I feel like I got it figured out, like last season, I felt like, well, that's the end of the show.
Right.
You know, and this season, I'm like, now what could he do? But you've taken it, it's almost like a different place that you are with him, like you've matured with him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dexter in a way was like in his infancy in the first season, and now he's maybe more of an adolescent.
Yeah.
You know, but he's developmentally disabled,
right.
for sure.
He's got to kill Dukes too. I can't be this nervous worrying about him week after week.
I mean, his capacity for stress management is phenomenal.
You're in a situation there too when you're a fan of Dexter, of like we said, Dukes should be the hero of the show. He's the one, the real cop who's paying attention.
Truth.
Yeah, who's paying attention to what's going on. The last episode when you tricked him was just amazing. Just amazing stuff. We get back into what your character is, though, as an actor. It's a very physical role, whether you're not moving or then when you do move, you're moving like a cat.
Right. I mean, you gotta, it's no doubt Dexter is fantastically capable. I mean, I don't know how he got his brother back into an active crime scene and slashed his throat with anybody noticing. I mean, there are sort of almost magical things he pulls off, but at the same time, you want to believe that this is a guy who's physically capable of pulling this stuff off.
Right.
And, I mean, it's definitely, it's not something that calls for a timid approach.
Right. Well, although you will play a timid, like when Dukes was beating you up and you went down.
Oh, yeah.
You look like a very weak guy, but then later when you fought him last year, I mean, you had to really be able to physically move.
The weakness was cultivated, It was all strategic. But yeah, I mean, I think there's I don't know, Cobra-like sort of focus and ability that Dexter, uncoils from time to time.
And the fact of, I remember during the first season and the flashbacks with the father, I'm like, well, this was, he did a different thing. But now by the, where you are now, you really feel like what was wrong with that man to do this to this little boy, to not get him help,
Yeah. I mean, he totally skips over institutionalizing, I'm sure, but he also skips over the possibility that maybe he could rehabilitate him.
Right.
I mean, he's killed some animals, but he basically says, "Look, you have no choice. You have no choice but to kill people. There's nothing you can do about it. You have no choice. So kill the people I'd like to have you kill." So in a way, the father is he's his son is his Frankenstein monster, but I think Dexter is coming into a sense that the code, even if it came from a place that's a little more flawed than he thought, it has protected him well.
Right.
And so I don't think he's quite ready to chuck it out the window.
Well, that's I mean, the fact that he is filled with so many conflicts, Yeah. And you got this character who's powerful, but at the same time, has he been as powerful as he thought? Has he been forced? Has he been abused to be that way? It's really a complicated show, but delivered almost week by week, like anybody can follow along with it,
Right.
And I love the stuff with the addiction. I just love the fact of, do you have to be there for your own impulses, And
I think it was really, really great on the writer's part that they found this sort of outlet for Dexter, because I think emerging in him, and has always been in him, a desire to reveal himself in a way that's emotionally satisfying, even if he doesn't literally admit to what he's doing. So standing up in front of an NA meeting is a perfect opportunity for that. Or telling your shrink that you're a serial killer. Right,
that was a great scene, And then he was just, it feels so good just to say it.
Now I have to kill you.
Talking about the writers, they're out on strike now. Did you guys get everything done this season that you needed to do?
Yeah, we managed to have everything wrapped before the strike started, and there's a possibility, if it's resolved in time, that we'll be able to go back to work on time. So for us, for the show specifically, it's fallen at a time that is not as much of a blow as it is for a lot of shows.
And the fact that being on Showtime, you don't have to do as many shows if you had a network show.
Yeah, it doesn't take like almost a full calendar year. We basically take 6 months, more or less, to shoot a season. So, there's time for us to catch our breath, do other things, remind ourselves that we're not serial killers, whatever it is.
And again, here's another situation where first HBO, now Showtime, cable doing so much better work than the network shows. It just it kills you when you go, why can't where have these shows been all these years?
Well, I mean, I think it's a model that's the subscriber base is what is the bottom line, whereas the bottom line on the network is advertising dollars. So you have all these sponsors that are throwing in their 2 cents about content, but have nothing to do with, any kind of artistic vision. So inevitably, stuff on the networks gets watered down or tempered in a way that the cable stuff doesn't.
You guys are left alone a little bit, where the network doesn't say, "Hey, we got a great character here. Let's make him a little happier."
Yeah. Could you smile more?
Yeah, the women the chicks dig you.
We were doing 6 Feet Under. The joke was like, if it was a network, they'd be like, "It's great, but what if they were veterinarians?"
Well, yeah, you've done back-to-back hit shows, which is almost impossible to be able to be part of that.
Very lucky.
Yeah. And for you, this is where you're comfortable, or you're like, I know you've done a lot of theater.
Yeah.
Do you think to yourself, I'm locked into a series, do I want to be here, or?
It's not the same kind of commitment as a network show. There's more time off to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd like to just keep mixing it up and keep working with good people, whether it's on stage or in front of a camera,
Have you gotten weird fan mail? No, I mean, I guess the fact, you're playing this, it's got to be somewhat of a beacon for weirdos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised at the extent to which I haven't gotten shady, sketchy fan letters. I mean, when I do, it's all very civilized.
And chicks dig this character, right?
They do. I mean, women like a proactive guy. he's a go-getter,
Yeah. The fact of working with blood splatter and all that, did you have to go and train and see how that work's done, or?
I'm a make-pretend expert, but I did spend some time with the head blood spatter analyst at Miami-Dade. He actually was nice enough to sit down with me and talk to me about what he did from a logistical standpoint, and also talk to me about the sort of dynamics of working as a civilian forensics guy alongside sworn-in police officers and the kinds of political things that go on, and that certainly is something that helped inform the dynamic that exists between Dexter and Dokes, for example.
Well, that is a great thing, too, because so much of that kind of police work has done away with the way they used to perform police work, which was, go slap somebody until they confess. Right. Now it really is coming down to scientific microscope stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, these people really do have the ability to create a genuine order out of what is apparent chaos.
Right. Which is really interesting that right from the beginning that he would walk onto this place where murder took place. He feels fantastic.
Yeah.
It's an exciting feeling for him, like a sex addict just walked into a bordello or whatever, but he can't express himself.
Right.
He can't ever say, "This is great," which I think is why the voiceover works so well on the show.
It's key. I mean, the key to sympathizing with Dexter is to see things from his point of view, and the voiceover is what allows for that. And the audience is in on the secret that no one else is in on, so they're kind of complicit. They're like accessories. And
that he's constantly, even with his sister, everybody at work, he's just acting. He's just wishes that he wasn't there almost in his own life.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it so long and cultivating the different aspects of his personality for so long that it does become second nature, and the line is somewhat blurred. Is he acting, or is he responding instinctually in a genuine way? And I think it's interesting because you're never quite sure.
Yeah, and I don't know how he's going to get out of it this year. I do not know how.
It's a mess, man.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm worried to death. I'm worried to death he can pull out of this.
No, there are scripts I read. I thought I was developing an ulcer. Just thinking about simulating it. I can't imagine.
He can't pull it off. Now, here's a great thing, too. If you haven't seen Dexter, Showtime has these all lined up for you when you go to Showtime On Demand, which is always cool.
So you can catch up.
Yeah, or decide, no matter what, I've seen that episode. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to rewatch it and go over everything because there's so many things that are happening.
Yeah.
So many clues and the fact that you foreshadow so much on the show from time to time. You will not catch these things the first time viewing. You got to go back and play with it.
I think, yeah, it's a perfect show to revisit because you're informed, you know where things end up, and with that in mind, you can watch it with new eyes.
Well, you were able, years ago, you had to basically pick a medium, and now you're able to go back and forth a little bit. I mean, you've done theater, you're going to do film and TV, so it's not like you're as handcuffed as you were years ago.
Yeah, and you know, the business now is not one where, oh, you act on TV, you're a TV actor. I mean, there are plenty of people from film who are knocking down the door to get jobs on good TV shows, and you know, all those. I mean, there's still walls that exist, but there are windows to go through and doors too.
Hey, good work is good work, right?
Yeah,
that's the important thing.
exactly.
All right, Michael C. Hall, thanks so much for coming in. It's Dexter, Showtime, and you can check it out on Showtime on demand too. Thanks for coming in, buddy.
My pleasure.
This